Hey, ho, what's going on? Good evening and welcome to tonight's show. We are talking Ramones again. Not only are we talking Ramones, but we're talking Johnny Ramone. We just did a whole episode about Johnny Ramone, but we're back again with another one because when I was doing that one, I discovered an interview that I've never read before from Rolling Stone magazine from 2002 that absolutely deserves examination for the simple fact that, 2002 is when Dee Dee Ramone died. And, Joey Ramone had most recently passed away, the previous year. They got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Johnny would be dead in 2 years. It's a pivotal, I can't say that word. It's a pivotal, wow. Pivotal. It's a pivotal time. You try saying it. You try saying pivotal. It's a pivotal time in Ramones history, post Ramones. How about that? Okay. So, almost you got two of the original four OGs are still around at this point. And Johnny did an interview with Rolling Stone about a re-release for Too Tough to Die. We talked about Too Tough to Die. I personally believe that Too Tough to Die is the last really, truly great Ramones record. I as I've said, I like something from all the Ramones eras. Even in even on like what is it? Brain Drain, Pet Cemetery. Animal Boy has Bonzo Goes to Bitburg. Those are two of their finest Ramones songs at a time where, Ramones writing was really, really tired and outdated. So, but pound for pound, Too Tough to Die, I think, is their last cohesive, onslaught of an album, where it just has so many tracks that are great. No Go, Endless Vacation, Warthog, Planet Earth 1988, Howlin' at the Moon, love Howlin' at the Moon. It's just got a bunch of stuff. And it also features actual writing from Johnny. Johnny is writing with Dee Dee. They're close again. And maybe that in part had to do with also the fact that Johnny Ramone had almost died. And we talked about that in the previous episode. Go see that. We're currently running a contest right now. I said I was going to be doing it every day, but that has proven much harder than I initially thought. And so we're still doing it. We're just not doing it every day. Basically, the way it works is you can win a free t-shirt if you answer a trivia question. And that will be at the end of the episode. Let me play the video that gives you the rules and regulations of how it's played. I'm going to be doing a live show every single day. I'm going to be giving away a t-shirt. At the end of every episode, I will ask my trivia question. You will send your answer to FrumessMAIL@gmail.com, and the first person to answer correctly will be the winner. You give me your name, your address, and your t-shirt size. If you are outside of the continental United States, you will have to cover shipping and handling. Join us night after night where I will be doing t-shirt giveaways. Who doesn't like a free t-shirt? I'm not going to go easy on any of you. I'm going to ask really hard questions. So be prepared. Okay, so now you understand how the game is played. I have my trivia question picked out already. You got to send me the email afterwards. Additionally, keep your eyes peeled. If you're a YouTube member or Patreon member, I have recorded a whole bunch of new secret shows. The first of which has gone up, and there's another one scheduled down the pike covering that very secret topic that we have been secretly discussing on the secret show. So if you're curious, buy a ticket, go behind the wall, and check out the archive. It's an archive full of stuff that you will not find on my YouTube channel. So if you do enjoy the content here and you need more of it, that's where you go to get it. Additionally, Mad Max, the novelization, the first part, that drops tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled for that if you enjoyed the Return of the Living Dead novelization reading. Okay, I digress. Housekeeping over. Let's dive into this. So this is from June 24th, 2002. So it's 21 years ago. Can you believe that was 21 years ago? That's the type of thing that makes me feel old. I was 16 years old at the time. 16 going on 17. My God, how times change, huh? Boy, where does the time go? Okay, so I also had to do it like this because that stupid Rolling Stones paywall. So this is Johnny Ramone Stays Tough. Ramone's guitarist reflects on Dee Dee's death in the difficult 80s by Colin Devonish. June 24th, 2002. More than 25 years after taking rock back from the bloated excesses of the likes of Yes and Styx and essentially inventing punk rock, the Ramones again find themselves very much where they began, as critical darlings and commercial underdogs. With two of the band's founding members and principal songwriters recently departed. That's right. The songwriting core of the Ramones was gone by 2002. Joey Ramone died from complications of lymphoma last April, and Dee Dee Ramone died of an apparent drug overdose earlier this month. The surviving Ramones will see their classic efforts again hit the pop market with the second batch of Rhino reissues. So these Rhino reissues, if you were around back then and if you were a Ramones fan, and this is just around the time I started getting into the Ramones, they started doing these incredible reissues. The Ramones had deep studio vaults. Maybe it had been bootlegged previously. I don't know. But we were starting to get these wonderful, wonderful archival re-releases. The albums were remastered, and then there was always a second disc full of goodies. You had like demos and like songs that were recorded, like songs that came out on later albums that, like, I think like Touring. I forgot what album Touring came out of, but it was recorded about a decade prior, and there was like a different version of the song. So just like various stuff, like for instance, Road to Ruin was great because Road to Ruin had that had the full 5 songs from Rock and Roll High School, the movie, the live concert, the actual live recordings from that show. And there was a great early live show from 76, I want to say, on the Leave Home reissue. They were just fantastic. In fact, the Leave Home reissue was an astonishing like 30 or 40 tracks. Now, back in the day when you're buying CDs, and CDs cost like $18 at this time. They could $16.99, $17.99, $18. Remember that? Remember how terrible it was? I mean, you could buy a reissue of your favorite record and it's 12 tracks and it's like $30. But the difference there is that's like something that will appreciate in value, and it's different. It's like you're buying an art piece. It's not the same. Hi, Laura Connor says that they are living on a Chinese rock. We actually covered the genesis of that song and why Dee Dee Ramone hated Johnny Thunder so much. So check out that video as well. Point being is they were putting out these gorgeous reissues, and this is Johnny doing an interview to publicize the Too Tough to Die one that came out, and it's great. That's got some great demos on it as well. But what's interesting, but the other thing that's interesting about this is a peek inside of Johnny Ramone's head after losing his former bandmates. Now we've heard, he didn't go to Joey's funeral. Well, we'll listen to him probably talk about it. Well, let me just read the thing. Laura, Dee Dee was absolutely correct. Johnny did steal Dee Dee Ramone's song. He absolutely did. That was a song that was written by Dee Dee Ramone with a few lines from Richard Hell. That was co-opted by Johnny Thunders when Richard Hell brought it into the Heartbreakers in 1975. Just watch that episode. We really go into the nitty-gritty. We read from the book. I can't say the title out loud. We go into the whole thing. All right, let's continue on here. So you have the second batch of Rhino reissues, 1980s, end of the century, 1981's Pleasant Dreams, 1983 Suburban Jungle, 1985's Too Tough to Die. There's also a Ramones tribute album coming out featuring disciples who have sold plenty of records. U2, Eddie Vedder, and Marilyn Manson. I think Kiss, Metallica, Iggy Pop. There's a lot of people on that tribute. And that's the man, when did that come out? Yeah, that came out right around this time, 2002. I'm trying to remember the name of it, though, the actual name of the tribute. 1 week before Dee Dee's untimely death, Johnny Ramone spoke to Rolling Stone about the 80s reissues and his band's legacy. A week after Johnny's death, sorry, what am I saying? A week after Dee Dee's death. So a week before Dee Dee's death, Johnny Ramone spoke to Rolling Stone about the 80s reissues and the band's legacy. And then a week after Dee Dee's death, I guess they went back for comment from Johnny. Johnny reflected on his former bandmate. So this is really interesting. This is a retired Johnny Ramone reflecting on his bandmate, Dee Dee Ramone, which I guess, you know, if you've read Commando, you probably have a good idea of what his feelings were about Dee Dee back then. Crap, did I not do this thing on the thing? Hold on a second. Was that not on? We got to double check this. So what do you think of the bonus tracks included on the reissues? They are, yeah, that is good. Johnny says, there's some songs I don't even remember hearing before. I was glad they found the demos on Too Tough to Die. Dee Dee singing Danger Zone is great. Some of these things I hate, like the cover of the Rolling Stones Street Fighting Man. That's right, there's a Street Fighter Man cover. I envisioned Dee Dee singing the song, and then all of a sudden one day when I wasn't around, Joey went in and sang it and had them mix it and mixed the overdub guitar up. It wasn't at all what I had envisioned. I wanted the overdub guitar down. I wanted it to be a punk version. I wanted Dee Dee singing it. It was the only way I agreed to do the song to begin with. It sounds like a bad high school band doing Street Fighting Man. I hate it. Maybe some people will listen to it and like it. Now, you know, it's something else to note. Hey, Angus, how are you tonight? Hope you're well, buddy. Something else to note about Johnny Ramone. We said this with the last thing we did with Johnny Ramone, talking about Johnny Ramone. By the way, I did buy that book from the girlfriend. I bought the book. So we'll read the book, and I'm going to read the book, and we'll talk about that book as well. I bet we're going to get some interesting stories out of that. Johnny had no ego when it came to that sort of stuff. When it came to who's doing what on records, again, like totally having Walter Lure from the Heartbreakers come in and, just do guitar solos, that he just didn't care. He just didn't care. He was more of a project manager. He was a leader and a project manager. Just want to make sure that the Ramones product was what it was, even if he wasn't on it, that sort of thing. So a whole bunch of songs I liked didn't make it onto the records for some reason. Pass This Way and Danger Zone with Dee Dee singing is great. It's more punk. I almost want to try and do a Johnny Ramone like I did last time. It's more punk. It's more punk. The version that made it to the record with Joey's vocals is more polished. No One to Blame, Roots of Hatred, Bumming Along, Unhappy Girl. I totally forgot about these songs. I don't even remember doing them, and I'm on them. All right, I don't know if that's good. All right, I'll stop. Is there anything here that will surprise people? Johnny says, at first, I'm always against bonus material because there's a reason why it didn't come out. But then I'm listening to some of this stuff, and a lot of it's interesting. I guess I'm okay with it. Chop Suey featuring Blondie's Debbie Harry and the B-52's Cindy Wilson and Kate Pearson. That's pretty bizarre. I don't like it, but I guess it will surprise people. That was aggravating. I probably was trying to get out of there as fast as I could. A lot of the stuff went on after I left the sessions. I thought maybe I wasn't even on it, but I do hear me in there. They mixed my guitar down. There's so much junk over it. It was probably a very low point in the Ramones' career. Everyone had different ideas. We were all on different wavelengths at that point. But at the same time, he's writing with Dee Dee Ramone. So I don't know. At the same time, we were probably getting along the worst we were getting along. But I don't think any of us were talking to each other. On Too Tough to Die, Things were being done by individuals without the approval of everyone else. By the time, okay. I was like, I'm not crazy. By the time of Too Tough to Die, we were getting along better and things were improving. So he's talking about the earlier, like Subterranean Jungle and Pleasant Dreams and that sort of stuff. Interviewer asks, do you feel working with Phil Spector, who produced End of the Century, was something that could have brought you mass appeal? End of the Century, super polished, if you're not familiar with it. The infamous stories of being held at gunpoint, being held hostage by Phil Spector while he listened to Baby I Love You, which he wanted to make Joey like a star, like a solo act, listening to Baby I Love You over and over and over again. Johnny says, that was the thought. Yeah, because we had avoided doing a record with him on 1977's Rocket to Russia and 1978's Road to Ruin. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they had considered Phil Spector for both those records. Looking back at it, I'm glad we worked with him because he's a legendary producer. And the fact that we completed an album with him and the fact that we completed an album with him and all that. But at the time, I wanted the Ramones to keep as much control over what we were doing. And we were starting to get pressure from the record company. A tough period was starting because I didn't really want to work with Phil Spector. But I knew at that point, by our 5th album, we were going to need help because I had already thought we were going to become big and I would be retired by my 5th album. I mean, that's what he was doing. He was always working to retire. That's all he ever, thought about. How you doing, Winston Smith? Greetings to you. Hey, Winston, we started Mad Max, the novelization, by the way. I know you like that novelization stuff. So we started on Mad Max. Yeah, he was always working to retire. He said in his book, I just need to make $1 million. I can retire once I get $1 million. That's all Johnny ever cared about. That is good seltzer. It's really hot here, and the seltzer is really cold. But I knew at that point, by our 5th album, we were going to need help because I already thought we were going to become big and I would be retired by my 5th album. And then I could see that we were in trouble. By the next album, we weren't really getting along, and then we started to get refocused again and started looking at better times. It started with Subterranean Jungle and then Too Tough to Die. They're good albums. What was it like working with Phil Spector, asks the interviewer. And Johnny says, painfully slow and I can't do it. Painfully slow and stressful. We were used to working at a very fast pace. He wasn't a pleasant person. He was nice to us, but he was just so horrible to everyone else around. I heard that he's pleasant now. It must have been the abuses he was going through personally, substance abuses or something. I'm not sure what, but there were demons inside of him. I had a hard time. My father died in the middle of the album, and along with Phil's basic unpleasantness, it was hard. He was trying to separate Joey from the rest of the band constantly. Joey, which I'm sure, what's interesting? I don't know when the rift between Joey and Johnny started before Johnny stole Linda away from Joey. And that created the famous grudge in the Ramones. Did Johnny start to resent Joey by the way that Phil Spector was treating him during the making of End of the Century? That would be an interesting, who could answer that would be Mickey Lee. Mickey is Joey's brother. He would be able to answer that question, or Monty, I guess Monty, but I think Mickey, maybe Mickey more, who knows? We did have Monty Melnick, the Ramones tour manager, on this channel, and you should go and watch that interview. Hear a legendary person discussing legendary shit. I mean, dude, if you've been around for every Ramones show there ever was, you are a legend. I mean, that's at least now, today, maybe not back then. So Johnny here is saying that Phil Spector was trying to divide the band, and we didn't need that. You have to keep people's egos in check. It really worked when he got a slower song like Danny Says. The production worked really tremendously. Rock and Roll Radio is really good. For the harder stuff, it didn't work as well on, but it was overall a good album. I had left because of the stress I was under. And once they were going to bring in an orchestra to play on Baby I Love You, I said, there's no point in me playing on this song because my specialty was not called for on this one. Now, again, that's what I mean by the ego stuff. Any other guitar player might fight tooth and nail. And Johnny most certainly had an ego. That's not to say that he didn't, at least from everything I've read from him. But I'm just saying in this aspect, it's like he just didn't care. And I think it's pretty profound in this kind of, musicians can be a very vain lot. Not all of them, but some of them. Once they started bringing in an orchestra, I ain't playing with no orchestra. That's not me. And that's, again, for a band that people, it's not the Ramones weren't trying to sell out. They were just trying to be, they were trying to do the thing that was truthful to them, but they wanted to be commercially viable and they wanted to be rich and they wanted to be big, but they wanted to be big in their own way, doing their own thing and not somebody else's thing. Although I would say that End of the Century is probably the closest that they really come to bending, for the sake of commerciality. But even here you have Johnny walking out on a session because he's like, that's not me. I do the buzzsaw Ramone thing and that's it. What's your favorite of these records? He says, probably Too Tough to Die. I just felt like we had gotten back on track and gotten focused on the Too Tough to Die album. It was an experience. End of the Century is a good album. There's good things on all of them. During Pleasant Dreams, we weren't really communicating. It's just saying the same thing over and over again. We had Graham Goldman as producer, and he was a very lightweight pop guy. I knew I was in trouble immediately on the first day when he said, your amp is buzzing too much. Can you turn down your volume? Yikes. It was a long session. He wasn't really right for the Ramones. That's all. We had no choice at that point in time. As far as producers, once you don't have the commercial success, it's hard to maintain as much control over things as you would like. But by Too Tough to Die, we had gotten back to working with producer Ed Stasium and Tommy Ramone, and that was a good move. Subterranean Jungle would have been basically a pleasant experience, but we were having trouble with our drummer, Marky. He was kicked out of the band for being an alcoholic, Marky Ramone. He was replaced when the sessions ended, and you see him on the cover of Subterranean Jungle, separated from everybody else. Otherwise, it was relatively pleasant. We were starting to get back on track. Me and Dee Dee were at least talking at that point. Was there a staple of your Ramones experience that at any given time there was somebody you weren't talking to? And he says, oh yeah, it was probably very rare that we were all talking from the get-go. And he goes, no, for the first 4 albums, I think we were basically friends at heart. We got used to working like that. It got harder when the records had to be made. Playing live shows didn't matter. Records were always better when we were talking. Those are the better records. I can tell how things were going by how the record sounds. I could put the record on and tell, oh boy, we weren't talking on this one. Adios Amigos, we were basically all talking again. And I was happy with that one too. So it's interesting how he notates that too, the first 4 albums. So End of the Century, when Phil Spector comes into the picture and he's telling Joey, you could be a star, you could be a solo guy. That's when, things start to go cold. And then shortly thereafter, maybe, a couple years, year or 2, 3 years, whatever, that Linda and Johnny become, a permanent thing. How did you get involved in the upcoming Ramones tribute album? Johnny says, I was approached about it and said, yeah, I'll be involved, but I have to have full say. They said, yeah, fine. So I said, I can get Eddie Vedder, I can get Rob Zombie, and I can get the Chili Peppers and Marilyn Manson and Metallica. I told them right away who I could get, and they said, whoa, that's great, fine. So that's how it developed. Right, did the Chili Peppers do Havana Affair? I'm trying to remember what song Kiss did. I don't know. Winston says, I love a lot of End of the Century, but I've been rocking Mondo Bizarro also recently. Mondo Bizarro is the covers album, right? That's the covers record. There's Acid Eaters. Acid Eaters is the cover record. Mondo Bizarro is Mondo Bizarro is the cover record, and Acid Eaters has originals on it. The interviewer asks, I heard you encouraged bands to come up with drastically different takes on the originals. And Johnny says, I tried whenever possible. Some bands are going to be more Ramones-like, but with other people, I said, just try to pretend you wrote the song and you never even heard the Ramones version, which I think is is pretty good advice for approaching a cover. But I love how it says Ramones-like, in the same way that we have Beatles-like. There are certain bands that bring, and that's why the Ramones are so great. There are certain bands that bring a style and aesthetic that is so signature to them and who they are that they become a verb. It's like you see it all the time in filmmaking, like Stanley Kubrick, Kubrickian. You have Lynchian, David Lynch. It's a Lynchian film. It's a Kubrickian film. Hitchcockian. These are things, Spielbergian. These are aesthetics and styles and, you know, schools of thought around the mastery of cinema that are applied, and, you know, have the filmmaker who, you know, innovates that style generally takes ownership of it. I guess that's the way it is with anything, really, but it's most certainly true. You know, you hear that term like Beatlesque. You also have just like, you know, like Ramones core is like a whole subgenre based around, you know, the Ramones aesthetic. So this idea of Ramones, like, you know, really is a testament to, you know, the profound impact that they have as a band. Rob Zombie did Blitzkrieg Bop. Marilyn Manson did the KKK Took My Baby Away. Those are pretty bizarre. You're going to have to hear them. I can't describe it. Rob Zombie sounds like Zombie doing Blitzkrieg Bop. It doesn't resemble the same song. Eddie Vedder's version of I Believe in Miracles sounds like the version I wish we would have done. It's just a punk version. We were holding back. We were trying to make a commercial and this and that. And Eddie, he just did a punk version of it and sings it great. It's what we would have done if somebody wasn't saying it's got to be this speed. We're going to get to the click track and measure the right speed. They were looking at it as a single and doing it like that. The Pretenders version of Something to Believe in is great. I never liked that song, but whatever they did to it is great. Eddie Vedder has the distinction of the last official, I should say official, because it's, you know, they played, apparently they played a secret show or two after that final show in Los Angeles, the We're Outta Here show. But the final song on We're Outta Here, this could have been the trivia question. It's not going to be. The trivia question that I have for tonight is so hard. It is a Ramones trivia question, and it's something that we have mentioned before on the channel when discussing the Ramones. We'll see if anybody gets it right. It is searchable on the internet if you can find it. I'm only putting that out there because of how friggin' difficult this question is. But it is available. The information is available. But it's Eddie Vedder who sings on the last Ramones song, Anything You Want. That's it. That's the last one. Interviewer asks, are you working on any projects right now? And he goes, this is enough work. I hope I'm not involved in any more projects. Talk about Dee Dee Ramone and his contributions to the Ramones. And Johnny says, well, you know, when talking about Dee Dee, it's, you know, these are sticky things. And you know what else is sticky? Riot stickers. And I'm sure if the Ramones were still around and Johnny was looking for a really good deal on really cheap stickers that had really good quality to them, he would use riotstickers.com. He would take advantage of the FrumessRiotStickers.com deal that we have. You go down, link is in the description, go to riotstickers.com/Frumess, and you can get 1,000 stickers for $79. Do the math on how many cents that is per sticker. Go ahead, think about it. I mean, you just cannot beat 7 cents a sticker. It's unreal. It's unfriggin' real. They are printed on vinyl, which makes them essentially waterproof, and they have the UV coating over them to protect them from the sun. So they do really well in the outdoor climate when you stick them around. So check out this special deal today, riotstickers.com. Let's play a little theme song. I'll take a sip of my seltzer, and we'll get back to Johnny Ramone.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too, posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads, we can print on shirts, we can print on hats.
And we are back. Also, make sure you stick around to the end of the episode when we ask our trivia question, and you have a chance to win a free Frumess t-shirt. You've seen the design. Go back to the beginning of the episode. I'm not going to play the video again. Winston confirms that it is Acid Eaters. Acid Eaters is the cover album, not Mondo Bizarro. Angus corrects and says that in Johnny's day, it would be approximately 3.5 cents per sticker. Dan says Bad Religion. That's what it was called. Thank you, Dan. The tribute. I have it somewhere, the comp. We're a Happy Family. Yes. No, but that's the name of the tribute as well. The album is called We're a Happy Family. So, oh no, this is for a 1991 tribute. Okay, never mind. But I do believe that tribute that we're talking about right now from 2002 is called We're a Happy Family. I couldn't think of the name. It's We're a Happy Family. But he's saying that Bad Religion covered that in 1991. Interesting. I had my facts all screwed up. All right. So what does Johnny Ramone think about Dee Dee Ramone and his contributions to the Ramones? Johnny says, Dee Dee was a very unique character, the most influential punk rock bassist. He set the standard that all punk rock bassists look to. His songs weren't like anything else, just crazy, crazy stuff, like The Highest Trails Above on Subterranean Jungle album, even 53rd and 3rd, and things like that. Just everything, the whole structure of the song, the whole lyrical content. We don't know of anything else like it. He was a great lyricist. I'd write something like Warthog, and I'd give it to Dee Dee and go, here's a song called Warthog. And then he'd have the lyrics down, and he'd just open up his book and just start singing a page out of his book of lyrics. He was really prolific as far as coming up with the lyrics constantly. And I think he influenced every punk bassist or every bassist who came to see him play. Dee Dee continued to write songs for the Ramones right until the end, the final album. I think he might have written 6 songs for the Ramones after he left. His songs were always my favorites. Anything I co-wrote with Dee Dee. So Warthog is one of those examples of a Johnny Ramone, Dee Dee collaboration. Warthog, they'd always open the sets in later years. They'd open up with Warthog, especially in the 90s. That once again, We're Out of Here. That final record is called begins with Warthog, in fact. And CJ would take over. CJ, of course, took over singing the Warthog song, the Warthog, after Dee Dee left the band. There's a very famous story about, how did Dee Dee write Pet Sematary for the Ramones? They were at Stephen King's house, and he found the book Pet Sematary and wrote that whole song in like an hour at Stephen King's house. Isn't that unbelievable? Funny fact, the music video was filmed at the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, the old Dutch cemetery, right, 10 minutes west of me, over in that direction, where I have spent lots of time. The interviewer asks, have you been in touch with him recently? And did you have any sense he was having problems? Had you been in touch with him recently? So this is after Dee Dee has died. And Johnny says, I saw Dee Dee about 2 weeks before it happened. I saw him on Hollywood Boulevard. We had spoken a few times. We were out for lunch before the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony in March. And I convinced him to go to it. Could you imagine being a fly on the wall at lunch between Dee Dee Ramone and Johnny Ramone talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I ran into him a couple times at Amoeba Records in Los Angeles. We would see each other here and there. As far as I knew, everything was fine, and I didn't know anything was wrong. I'm starting now to look into it a little bit and see if anyone else knows anything. I'm trying to speak to people who were a little closer. I've been working on that for the past couple of days. Of course, there were different periods of time where you could have expected something like this to happen, but Dee Dee was always a survivor, and so it came as a shock. Dee Dee struggled. Is that it? Is that the end? Oh, man. That's all he has to say, huh? I thought there might be more. Yeah, Dee Dee always struggled, man. And he spent he spent long periods of time while he was in the Ramones in recovery in some way, shape, or form. He put time together, and then it would Garden of Serenity, and then it would come crashing down. And it just goes to show you, like, just the tragic nature of drugs, man. And just when you think you could, no matter how many times you survive, if you expose yourself, all it takes is one time to take you out. And that's what's happened to so many people. I think one of the most famous examples of that is Bradley Nowell from Sublime. I mean, just the tragedy of that whole situation. And it wasn't really, tragedy in the sense that it was something that was inevitable, that his whole family saw as inevitable, so it wasn't overly shocking. They were making their peace with that, reality, that possibility 2 years before it had happened. And it's crazy now is, Jacob Nowell, his son, who I love his music. Go check out Jacob Nowell, Bradley Nowell's son's music. He signed to Epitaph Records, speaking of Bad Religion. And, Sublime was almost signed to the same label. All the Robin the Hood songs were recorded, with Mr. Brett. Those were all supposed to be demos for what eventually would be that would be on that. Now, would it have sold as many records as it did under MCA? Who knows? I don't know. But we're here to talk about Johnny Ramone, and so he doesn't even mention Joey Ramone's death, but we know how he felt about Joey Ramone. He was inconsolable, but held up that same reserved, that guarded sense about him when it came to Joey. He had to stay on brand about it, but privately was torn up on some level. Angus saw Dee Dee perform in Kansas City circa the late 90s. Yeah, I mean, he was just out there playing as Dee Dee Ramone. He had a few different bands. He almost did a band with Gigi Allen. There's like footage of them together. I think there's recordings of them together. There's a documentary called Hey, Is Dee Dee Home? And they talk about that briefly. And I think that was made by a guy, Kowalski, Lee Kowalski. I don't know. But I read on Reddit a story about this guy who said, I killed Dee Dee Ramone. And, I almost thought about covering it. But then I thought it was kind of like, we do a little clickbait here and there, but I thought it was like such clickbait. Like it just would have been, because obviously he wasn't responsible for Dee Dee Ramone's death. Dee Dee Ramone, did it to himself. But he just thought that because he didn't order some pot seeds that Dee Dee had asked for, you could go search it on Reddit. You'll find this thing. He thought because he didn't give Dee Dee Ramone pot seeds, he was supposed to special order them for Dee Dee. And because he didn't do it in time, Dee Dee fell back into heroin or something and did himself in. Are we ready for the trivia question? I think so. I think it's time for the trivia question. So I'm going to ask it. Let me state the rules. If you have already answered a trivia question, just so you know, I'm going to be out of state on Sunday. I'll have a chance to slow down. I'll go through my computer. I'll go in and I will start to announce winners of t-shirts and things and let people know, or at least, respond to some of the emails. Got a bunch of emails to respond to. So if you haven't heard from me yet, sit tight because you will. In the meantime, let me play the t-shirt thing for you one more time. I'm going to be doing a live show every single day. I'm going to be giving away a t-shirt. At the end of every episode, I will ask my trivia question. You will send your answer to FrumessMAIL@gmail.com, and the first person to answer correctly will be the winner. You give me your name, your address, and your t-shirt size. If you are outside of the continental United States, you will have to cover shipping and handling. Join us night after night where I will be doing t-shirt giveaways. Who doesn't like a free t-shirt? I'm not going to go easy on any of you. I'm going to ask really hard questions. So be prepared. Okay, here it is. Are you ready, kids? Aye, aye, Captain. All right, here it is. Johnny Ramone. He had a very famous, iconic guitar go up for auction that sold for $1 million. It was from Daniel Ray, who was, a Ramone's confidant, Ramone's producer, Ramone's co-writer. He also helped out with those two 90s Misfits records as well. Daniel Ray auctioned off Johnny's guitar that was on 15 albums and had seen action at almost every Ramones show there was. What is the exact number of performances that Johnny Ramone played live with this guitar in the band, the Ramones? The exact number. Again, Johnny's guitar that was sold for $1 million, almost $1 million, plays on 15 albums. How many live shows did that guitar play with Johnny Ramone? From I forgot what it is, from 1976 to 1996, something like that. Maybe it might have even been 75. How many live performances? The exact number. I don't want rounded numbers. I want the exact number. Email frumess@gmail.com. Sorry, FrumessMAIL@gmail.com. Okay. If you've already answered a question and you haven't heard back from me yet, sit tight. If you got 2 right, I'm not going to give you 2 shirts. It's 1 shirt per customer. Got it? So just try your hand. I'll just automatically skip over you if you answered 2 questions. You answered both right. Go to the next one. The first timestamp that I see that has the correct answer will be a winner of a t-shirt. Okay. So thank you. Peace and hair grease. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. We will be back with Sopranos season 6 recap. Actually, we might do that in late July. Might be taking a little break. We'll see. We will see. Keep your eyes peeled for Mad Max 2, secret shows, all the good stuff. All right, everybody. Peace.